Hi, Brett. A very good afternoon to you.
Hi.
Brett, so what are the main factors that are putting strain on South Africans financially?
Sure. Where does one start? I mean, if we're not talking about fuel prices going up, weakening rands, the impact of load
Mm,
shedding, certainly what we are seeing coming through right now is rising inflation, across the board, and that is certainly putting in pressure on the repo rate, which is causing the cost of debt to start increasing for consumers.
okay, and then according to the National Credit Regulator, lenders are pushing up their maximum loan terms. Why is this an increasing trend?
So, look, there's basically two reasons to do it. One is that you can increase the value of the loan that you're offering, and number two is you can make the loan installments smaller. So there's incentive for the lenders out there to increase the loan value because that's how they're able to increase the value of the loans that they're offering, and thereby increasing the revenues that they're earning. And there's incentive for the consumers because you're able to take a larger loan and make it more affordable. That's really what we're seeing happening in the market at the moment.
And what would the repercussions of this be on South Africans?
So, maybe let me give you a little bit more context around what we're seeing happening here. So,
Yeah.
there's the National Credit Regulator publishes their credit stats on their website every quarter, and there's a trove of information that's available in there for people to view. So it's publicly available information. And I just wanted to try and illustrate the point, through this mass of data, and just give you two data points to think about. So we looked at this. You need to look at this over a period of time to get the true picture of what's really happening in the marketplace. So we went back and looked at for the year of 2018 versus the year of 2022, just to give you a view of how the market is shifting. And I suppose the good news is that the size of the lending market has returned to return to pre-COVID levels. So as we look at 2022, it is quite comparable to 2018, but it's a 5-year period that you're looking at what's happening in the market. So in 2018, on average, consumers were taking out loans to the value of around 9 billion rand per month. In 2018, and in 2022, the value is exactly the same. It's still 9 billion rand that's happening. But what we're seeing is that consumers who are taking out loans with a repayment term of more than 60 months has risen in 2018 from 14% to now in 2022, that's risen to 32%. So it's more than doubled over this period of time here. But interestingly, what's happening is that the number of loans that have been granted has reduced. And so we're seeing that more people are taking out loans that are of a higher value and repaying them off over a longer period of time. Now, to your question of, well, what are the repercussions for this, is that consumers are being burdened with a higher debt repayment that they need to repay over a much longer period of time. And so the repayment costs that they're repaying to lenders is going up. But also what happens is that for a consumer who's sitting with a loan over more than 5 years of cash that they might have lent over 5 years ago, they get loan fatigue. They forget why they've got a loan. But more importantly, life happens, and people suddenly find themselves in a position where they have this loan that they're still repaying, but now they need access to additional cash. And that's where the debt trap is created, is they are sitting with this long-term bit of debt they can't get out of because they haven't finished paying it off. And now the need for additional debt comes in. And that's a real concern I have for consumers in the market.
Oh, and could you also please, maybe for the listeners, could you provide us with an example of this?
Okay, so let's say somebody needs a loan of 50,000 Rand. So you can go in and I think for many people that's a lot of money. But if I look at what's on average happening at the bureau, it's actually it's below the average loan that people are taking at the moment. So if you need a 50,000 Rand loan and you take that and repay it over 36 months, so it's a 3-year loan repayment, you would be paying 2,400 Rand a month, which would cost you, in total, you'd be repaying 86,000 Rand for that 50,000 Rand loan. If you take that same 50,000 Rand loan and you repay it off over 72 months, that's 6 years now, you double the period. What you're doing is you're reducing your loan repayment. It drops down to 1,750 Rand. So you're saving per month 650 Rand. But what you end up repaying over this longer period is 127,000 Rand. So you're increasing your amount that you're repaying by 48%. So it's 40,000 Rand. It's costing you an extra 40,000 Rand to save 650 Rand a month for 3 years.
Yeah, that definitely catches up within. You can definitely see how that fatigue and that settles in. Given the increase in the interest rates over the past 5 years, even like recently, how does Wonga curtail this?
So, with the interest rates going up, and what we are seeing is arrears rates are going up. So, again, when we look at what's referred to as non-performing loans in the industry, so what percentage of loans are 3 or more months in arrears? And what we're seeing is on these long-term loans, over the same period that we're busy reviewing here, it's gone from around 15% of loans that are non-performing, it's gone up to 20%. And I know that for a fact that is very highly likely that is coming because of the increase in loan term. And so people have more chance for something to go wrong in their lives that interrupts their ability to repay the loan. If I contrast that to the short-term lending industry, the non-performing loan rate has gone over the same period, moved from 14.5% down to 13.5%. So actually, what we're seeing is in the short-term loan market, people are less indebted or getting into arrears far less than when they're taking a long-term loan. So, if I think about what is it that we're doing in the short-term industry, I think, that we are limiting the amount of rands that customers are able to lend. So we're not getting them and overselling somebody a loan that they maybe don't need. And also with the loan repayment being much shorter, there's a much shorter or smaller chance of something going wrong and impacting a customer's ability to repay that loan. And I think that, my personal view is that is quite fundamental to us being a responsible lender, is ensuring that customers are not left in a worse off position after taking a loan.
Mhm. Absolutely. And what is your recommendation for avoiding this kind of debt trap?
I'm a really big advocate for loan utility. And what I mean by loan utility is when you're taking a loan, think about what it is that you're repaying. So I'll give you 2 examples to contrast. Excuse me. If you are taking a mortgage loan, you're buying a home, it's a big asset, it's going to appreciate with value. By all means, the utility of the loan, paying it off, it's a large value, and paying it off over 20 years is a really good idea. It makes that large repayment affordable for somebody. But if you're taking a loan and you are, and I use this as just an easy example, if you're using a loan to go on a holiday, for instance, and it's an annual vacation that you're taking to go to the coast, as an example, taking that loan and repaying it off over 5 years just doesn't make sense, because in a year's time, you're likely going to want to go on holiday again. And so, making sure that the loan repayment is matched to the utility of the loan means that you're not going to get stuck in with these multiple loans that you're being forced to repay simultaneously. And obviously, this all comes into combination with things like, save if you can. That's always the best option, is using savings if you can. But the reality is that a lot of people struggle to save in this country because, of inflation and the level of poverty in this country. So, trying to bang that drum, while it's absolutely valid, I don't think is realistic in the current market. And the other thing to think about is just making sure that you're using, not taking more debt than you really need. So if somebody needs 20,000 Rand, be careful of what can be seen as very alluring, suddenly being offered 50,000 Rand and being upsold on what you really need. Because while it might seem very tempting to get a larger amount of debt, you can think about what you can do with it. The repercussions long term can be quite damaging to people.
If you have just joined us, we are talking to Brett van Aswegen. He is the CEO of short-term lender Wonga, experienced executive with over 25 years of African retail credit, talking to us today about South Africa being in danger of being unable to service long-term debt. I know that there's one thing question that I have for you, and it's not one of our talking points, but I know that it's something that can appear very appealing to people, especially with struggling debt. I know that government is finalizing proposed legislation that sets new rules for the two-pot retirement system. The system will allow South Africans to access 1/3 of their retirement savings while they're still working. While this is being finalized, what word of advice would you give to our listeners?
So, I obviously am aware of this, and I believe that the limits of that, what people can access, is limited to 25,000 Rand. I'm obviously, we'll see what actually materializes right at the end.
Yeah.
But my advice is would absolutely be to avoid taking money from your retirement savings as much as you can. It's the compound impact of what you lose in interest on interest over the time of your life is worth much more than the rands that you'll be taking out now. And I do understand that for some people it's an absolutely critical necessity for them to be able to survive. But if at all possible, I would definitely try and avoid using your retirement savings to manage cash flow. It's as hard as it is, and I'm very much alive to the realities that a lot of people live through. But if it's at all possible to try and look at some of your expenditure and cut down on the luxury spends, that is always the first port of call I would go for.
Brett, thank you so much for always bringing insight here on the Fast Lane, and we look forward to chatting to you in the future.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure.
Your daily sports report on the Fast Lane.